Well, hello everyone, and welcome again to the Board Game Bunker podcast. My name is Nate, and this is my friend Ryan. And for this episode, we're going to be talking about the 10 games that we hope to play this year in 2025. Now, of course, if you're watching this later on in the year, and particularly next year, 2026, and you find out that we have not played all of these games in 2025, you can roast us in the comment section. But for now, here in January of 2025, these are our 10 games that we are hoping to be able to get to within the next year.
Absolutely. And I don't know about you, Nate, but my list looks entirely different than it did 2 years ago. I don't think there's anything from that list 2 years ago that's on this list because we're trying to go out in the perspective, not just what do we want to play, but what do we realistically think we can get to the table this year.
Exactly.
And so there's some games for me, like Gloomhaven was on that list a couple years ago. I realistically don't think I'm going to play that game this year.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was difficult to come up with a list. I mean, I have a lot in my backlog of games that I want to play, but like you said, trying to think through realistically the time and effort that it's going to take to learn and play all of these games.
That was key for me making this list.
Yeah. So, what is your first game?
Yeah, my first game is called Grand Austria Hotel.
I've heard of this.
Yeah, it's a game. I think I found out about it maybe from the Brothers Murph channel, one of my favorite channels. Bought it over the summer. So 6 months ago, I've had this game. Shelf of Shame game. It is a game where basically you are running a hotel in, I think, Vienna, effectively. And I don't know much about the game other than it's super relaxing. You roll some dice. So it's kind of the typical Euro idea where you roll dice based on what you roll. You get actions, but there's like 12 dice you roll.
Okay.
And your whole idea is you're trying to keep your guests happy. Trying to keep your guests happy by making sure they have good hotel rooms, that they have good food, because if they don't have good food, they're going to go to the hotel next door.
Okay.
It just sounds really relaxing. I'm very much the type of person that likes the hardcore Star Wars Rebellion, but also really likes this, let's just relax and have some fun.
Sure.
So it's a game that back in December, I told my kids, hey, pick a game off the shelf that you want me to try to learn. They're a little bit too old for these types of games, but they said, we want you to learn this one because they like the box cover.
Okay.
So that one, I'm sure I'm going to learn this year because my kids keep reminding me, we haven't learned that one yet.
Well, my first one on this list, it's called 1914 Nach Paris from VUCA Simulations. This one covers, as the name, the 1914 Western Front campaign of World War I. And the neatest thing I find about this game is, one, it's on a scale that I really enjoy, kind of the operational scale of a campaign, in this case, the 1914 campaign on the Western Front. But the neatest thing is the way that this game goes about teaching you how to play it. There are 9 different scenarios that teach you different aspects of the game until you get to the big grand campaign that covers the whole thing. So my hope is to get through all 9 of those at some point to then go and play the grand campaign. We'll see how far I get, but it's got a great artwork, great style to it. It definitely drives the theme of World War I think, really well in the game. So
that's awesome.
That's my first one.
Yeah, I love the fact that it builds to that, something big instead of just throwing you in, because I feel like with a lot of these games, it's all big campaigns, which are great, but it just seems so overwhelming to start with.
Yes.
So if it can lead you to that point, that sounds fantastic.
Well, and one of the, maybe this is a side note, and this could be something that we discuss later on a different episode, but this is one of the things that is always a little concerning about when playing some of these big campaign games, particularly in war games, is I love the idea of a big campaign and lots of decisions to make, but you get sort of this almost like a writer's block, but you get a wargamer's block where you're so afraid of making a wrong decision that you're sort of paralyzed on what do I do first.
Right.
And you end up not doing anything.
Yeah.
Whereas I really like here in the 1914 Nach Paris that it provides these smaller scenarios to give you a sense of accomplishment and teaching you and giving you much more familiarity with the game and its concepts so that you're not intimidated when you get to the big campaign.
Absolutely. Yeah, games that can teach you to that point are becoming more and more key in this industry where there's just too many games out there.
Yeah.
So if I have a decision to make between a game that sounds great but it's going to take forever to learn, or something that maybe is a little less great but it's going to introduce me and teach me, I'd rather go for that.
Right. Yep. Alrighty, what's your next game?
Yeah, so I kind of cheated for this one. I chose 2 games that are kind of almost, to my understanding, very identical. If I can play one of them, that'll fulfill this in a way. Same designer, UA Rosenberg.
Okay.
Talking about analysis paralysis, these are sandbox games. One of them is A Feast for Odin, and one of them is Caverna the Cave Farmers.
Okay.
To my understanding, effectively the same type of game by the same designer. One of them is you are dwarves. Basically mining and creating a family and building out your underground vegetable gardens, etc. And one is Feast for Odin is you are Vikings and you are building out your Viking kind of longhouse and a family and your Viking vegetable garden and going on raids and hunts and all that. The idea behind a sandbox game is effectively you just have a stupid amount of choices, 50, 60 choices of things you can do. Kind of like think Age of Empires in a way. It's like, am I going to build this farm? Am I going to go explore? Build the barracks? Whatever.
Right.
And you start choosing things, and you start building your little civilization however you want to. There is victory points and end game kind of triggers and things like that.
Yeah.
But you're kind of competing. You're competing against everyone else, but you're kind of doing your own thing on your own little tableau and building it out however you want. These games have something like 700 pieces each.
Wow.
Kind of like little wooden counters, little jewels and gems.
That
for the
sounds like a
dwarves.
lot for a Euro game.
It's a lot for those
Wow.
games are heavy boxes.
Huh.
I bought them within a month of each other. I got Feast for Odin on a good deal, and then Caverna was on a good deal on Prime Day, and I snatched both of them up. And I'm like, okay, which one first?
Right.
It's part of a series of this, kind of not really a series, but kind of he develops this mechanic and he applies it.
So like a family of games.
Yeah, there's another one called Agricola, and that was the first
I've
one.
heard of that one.
And apparently that one is very hard. And you're just farming, and you need to make sure that you have enough food for each worker you have, and if you don't have enough food for the workers, they can die, etc.
Interesting. Okay.
So yeah, I couldn't decide between which one of those, so I figured
it's just one of those.
One of those two. They're not the same, but they're similar enough.
Sure. Well, my next game is also part of a series, a family of games. This one is called Barbarossa Army Group Center, 1941.
Yeah.
It's from GMT Games and Vance von Boris. This game originally came out in the 90s. And it's now undergoing, or did, I should say, a second edition.
Okay.
Rules were completely redone. Maps, counters, the whole order of battle that covers the initial, obviously the name of the game, Barbarossa, Operation Barbarossa, the German invasion of the Soviet Union. But this is part of the East Front series. And so Army Group Center, that's currently out. There is Army Group North that should be coming out relatively soon.
Yeah.
From when we make this video.
Nice.
And then there's Army Group South. Then there's also a Typhoon that covers the German advance on, near Moscow.
Nice.
But you can play each game independently of one another, but you can also put them all together to have one giant map of the Soviet Union to cover the whole campaign. But again, kind of like Nach Paris, that this game has a lot of smaller learning scenarios that get you up to eventually the grand campaign to cover all of Army Group Center.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to it. It's a very dense, complex game, but from what I hear, it covers East Front mid 1941 really, really well.
Yeah, I know you talked about it for a while. I was really wanting to play that one.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, I hope we can get to it.
What's your next game?
My next one, I am surprised it's this low on this list. I think a few years ago it would have been near the top. A game that it's my newest game. I got it for my birthday.
Oh, I know this game.
Terraforming Mars.
Yep.
So this is a game that I first heard about when I first started getting really into the hobby about 5 years ago. A game where you are effectively terraforming Mars. You're taking Mars and you've got all these science objectives to kind of change the oxygen levels, try to build build oceans. That sounds weird saying build oceans,
Sure.
but do whatever you need to do to the ecology of the planet to create oceans and make the planet sustainable for living. Everyone I've talked to, I know a few people who've played this game absolutely adore this game. It's a lot of people's number one of all time. It is a kind of a medium to complex Euro, effectively, where there's, again, no combat at all. You were just trying to fulfill objectives to basically change the map, which is a hex-based circle, the planet.
Okay.
And you're putting down different tiles to change it. So, yeah, something that's that's the thing I love about board games. Really niche idea, but it's one of the most popular games of all time.
Sure,
so
yeah.
I finally have it, and I really want to play it.
That's cool. My next game on my list is, you can call it a war game, but this is more of a political game, diplomatic game.
Yeah.
This one, it's brand new.
Okay.
It should be hopefully shipping here within the next couple of weeks. It's called Congress of Vienna from G&T. It's a part of a series called the Great Statesman series. The first one was Churchill by Mark Herman, and then the second one was called Pericles, also by Mark Herman. And this one, Congress of Vienna, starts after Napoleon's disastrous invasion of Russia in 1812. And then it runs all the way through until the end of the Napoleonic Wars, 1815. And each of the different players are the different major powers. And basically, it is a game of creating the best circumstances as your power to create what would be the post-Napoleonic War.
That sounds like a lot of fun, honestly.
So like Napoleon could still remain in power by the end of the game. Or it could end up like what it did traditionally and historically, that Napoleon abdicates and he's gone. And the Bourbons are restored. But again, a lot of things could happen in this game. I'm looking forward to playing it. The artwork looks really good. It's what really drew me to the game initially. And then once I started learning more about how the mechanics work and the different negotiations that you can do as different players, it seemed like it's going to be a gem.
That's great. Yeah. I kind of want to play that one too.
Nice.
Sounds good. My next one is The Adventures of Robin Hood.
Oh, okay.
And this is one, I do have all the games on this list. I think you probably have all these games.
I will, yeah.
Eventually.
Congress of Vienna should be shipping soon.
Right, so this is one I want to play soon. I actually got it out recently, then didn't have time to play it. But basically, the idea is a really neat concept. I've never seen this in a game before. So you have this big board. And there are no spaces on the board. It is Sherwood Forest and some castles and villages. And you have your character, whether it's Robin Hood or, you may marry one of those characters. And you move around the board effectively with these little character pieces that are different lengths to kind of show whether a character is walking or jogging or running. And you can move it in any direction you want to get to a different part of the board. It's choose your own adventure game. There is a leather book in it. So you basically start, you open the box, it's great. And there's almost like a 2-pager that says, don't read the rules. Start with this part of the book.
Interesting.
And the game will teach you as you go through the story. And then you choose your own adventure. The cool thing is that throughout the entire board, there's little flaps that you can open up that change the board as the game, as the story progresses.
That's cool.
So really cool. There's no spaces. You just move your character around, choose your own adventure, alter the story. And yeah, it sounds absolutely fantastic. I'm a huge Robin Hood fan.
Wow.
So I'm excited to see how this one goes. And there also is a Friar Tuck expansion, which I don't have, but
that's cool. That's an interesting concept for a game. Huh. Well, my next game is called Fall Blau. This covers the Case Blue, the German Stalingrad campaign from June to December 1942. And this game, I think, is the first game by this designer, Greg Blanchett from Compass Games. This originally was a 2016, I believe, or 2015 was the original publication. There's been another printing of it recently, but this game, it's a big footprint game. There's a lot of counters, a lot of units in the game. But the fascinating way that this game works is that a lot of the units in the game have an actual combat rating on it, like an actual number. Instead, there's a letter, A, B, C, and D. And when you go into a combat, you pull a chit that then will tell you what is the combat value of that unit, depending on the lettering. And so you don't always know exactly how strong your units are until you take them into battle. And so there's all this variability of what's happening and what could happen.
I like that.
In the game. And I've seen some people on YouTube have played this before, and they say that this game creates a really interesting narrative and that each game is different.
It sounds like it would.
Depending on the combat, as well as there's a chit in there that that simulates how erratic Hitler's orders were at the time, where Hitler continued to change the objective of the campaign. And so at different times in the game, you pull a chit that's Hitler's orders, and it tells you what the German objectives are. And so it continually changes in the game to kind of simulate what was going on. So I'm fascinated to
very story
play
driven
this.
Again.
Very
I
story
love that.
driven. So
that's great. Yeah, my next one is called Castles of the Mad King Ludwig. And it is a game, if you watch the last video, Suburbia, basically the same idea of Suburbia, where you have different castle pieces. You could have a dungeon, a kitchen, a library, throne room, all these things.
Sure.
And whereas Suburbia, you're working on your own little city. This is, you're all collectively working on kind of a big kind of castle.
Okay.
And you have different shape pieces. Suburbia's grids. This is all different pieces, and you get points based on what is next to each other, what's not next to each.
Okay.
Can't even talk. Not next to each other. You're just kind of it's not cooperative. It's every man for himself, but you're getting points based on how you're putting pieces next to whatever else is put pieces next to.
Okay, sure.
So basic is that, super simple, but I love that idea of just kind of laying down different grids in a castle theme to see what you create.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
That's cool. My next game, it was interesting how I ended up getting this game. Again, drawn in by the box cover of all things. Kept looking at it.
A good cover can do that.
And I was like, I'm really interested in this game. And then saw the map and was interested in that. And it really drew me in. And so I was surprised because the type of player that I am, I really like strategic and operational level war games. This is a tactical level war game. This one's called The Greatest Day, Utah Beach. It's part of the Grand Tactical Series by Multiman Publishing. This covers, as the name of the game says, Utah Beach in Normandy, June 1944. This is part of not only, like I said, the Grand Tactical Series, but it's also part of called the Greatest Day sub-series of it that will cover all of the Normandy landings. So there is currently Utah Beach. There is Gold, Juno, and Sword, the Commonwealth beaches. And then the third game will be Omaha Beach.
Nice.
And you can play each of them individually, but then you can also put them together to have this massive game. Because this covers the Normandy campaign on the battalion and company level scale. So there is a lot of units in this game. In fact, there were 16 counter sheets that I had to punch and clip out to get prepared to play.
Clipping is a choice.
It is a choice. I wanted to make it nice.
Not according to Wargamers. Wargamers is not a choice. It's mandatory.
That's right. And but I'm excited to play because I really wanted a good, deep Normandy level game. And I feel like this might be the game for me on the Normandy campaign.
That's awesome.
So we'll see. But I definitely am wanting to put this on the table soon.
Nice. Well, speaking of games that are all kind of part of, kind of a series and such, the next game on my list is called Raiders of the North Sea.
Okay.
It's part of a trilogy of games. And every once in a while, I think me and you, Nate, talk about, sometimes we just have a good gut feeling about something. I have a feeling Garfield Games, the publisher, is going to be one of my favorite game companies because they put out trilogies of games. They don't build upon each other, but they share a theme.
Okay.
So, for example, they have their West Kingdom trilogy, where they have 3 different games. You have Architects of the West Kingdom, Viscounts of the West Kingdom, and what's the last one? Paladins of the West Kingdom. One of them is more kind of political. One of them is more fighting and such. This is what they have for Vikings. Raiders of the North Sea, Explorers of the North Sea, and Shipwrights of the North Sea. All Viking-based with different mechanics. Each game it's not a reskin. This is the same culture and civilization, and we're going to take that, and then we're going to plop it into another game. The similar theme, but very different mechanics, ultimately. So Raiders of the North Sea is a worker placement game where you have your kind of your big board, and you've got your kind of your Vikings, and they go out exploring and raiding, and you have your workers, and wherever you put them on the board lets you do an action that will allow you to explore or raid or grow crops or such. So again, I'm realizing that worker placement is kind of my jam.
Yeah, I'm noticing that more and more.
So that one I want to get to the table. I know it's a little bit kind of in the middle of the list, but I think I'll probably play that one sooner than later compared to some of the other ones.
So the next game on my list is another game where, like the previous game, the cover really drew me into it. It's called Red Strike by VUCA Simulations. It covers what if the Cold War went hot in 1989.
Nice, that's a fun concept.
And just the idea of exploring an alternate history, kind of a big what if, really drew me to the game, as well as the cover. I saw the cover and was interested, and then went and looked at it more. It was like, I really want this.
Sure.
And one of the cool things that I was really also drawn to the game was, like other games that I've mentioned on my list, it has a graduated learning experience so that it first starts with just the basic things of how to move and fight like that, and then it begins to build up until you can play the big campaign.
Right.
And I just love the idea of being able to have that, and especially for such a big game.
For sure.
I think the game box is like 5 inches deep. I mean, there's a ton of stuff in this box, and I'm excited to explore it.
I'm excited for you too. And it's great whenever a box can kind of sell you in that way.
Oh, yeah.
We plan on doing an episode talking just about board game covers.
Definitely.
Nice. So my next one is Marvel Champions by Fantasy Flight Games. So I have not had a lot of luck playing basically card-driven games, like deck-building games that are solo. Lord of the Rings is one of my favorite books, favorite movies, and I hate Lord of the Rings, the card game. I know most people love that game. I have not cracked it, but it's also one of the few games I've played solo.
Okay.
You can play it with multiple players, but I've not. Marvel Champions is very similar. You can play solo or with other people. This one is apparently a little bit easier to get into solo. Basically, Marvel Champions is you are a character, Iron Man, Spider-Man, and you are upgrading your suit, your gear, all those things, and you have a story that you're working through, a little campaign, micro campaign, where you're trying to fight off a villain or defeat a scenario. While also, in the way that Fantasy Flight can only do, throwing in random things in there, like, oh, your aunt's sick, you have to go deal with that now in between everything. So this will be my second go around with a deck building solo game.
Okay.
And I'm interested in seeing if it was a me problem this time or what happened with Lord of the Rings, the card game. Because again, I love Lord of the Rings. That game, I played it about 10 times, and it did not go well.
Just never clicked with you.
It never clicked with me. And this was the first edition. I kept rereading the rule book. I still feel like I'm missing some key component that I just can't crack. And usually I don't have this problem with reading rules and figuring things out, especially because I know this game is so loved. So again,
we'll see if
Marvel
this game
Champions
does it
is going to kind of help me see, is this a more of a me problem, or do I need to go back, maybe get the second edition of Lord of the Rings, the card game. So kind of an experiment in a way.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
My next game is a new game that's not out yet. My understanding, it should be coming out hopefully sometime within the first quarter of 2025. This one's called Roma Victrix. It's by Compass Games. It covers the entirety of ancient Rome from the Republican days all the way to the end of the empire. And it's a sort of an area movement game.
Yeah.
But there's the possibility of having tons of different sides. It's not just the Roman Republic and its particular like smaller war or something like that. Where like for instance, the First and Second Punic War is in the game. The Third Punic War is in the game, but there's also having the Seleucid Empire and the Ptolemaic Empire and Macedon, the Greek city-states, like that. So you can cover all of the different powers that operated in the ancient Mediterranean, as opposed to just focusing on Rome. Rome is just one of the powers in some of these scenarios. Now, later on, when you get to, like, for instance, the Civil War scenarios with, like, for instance, Julius Caesar versus Pompey, obviously it's mostly Rome. This is a game kind of like Imperium Romanum in that there's no campaign.
Okay.
It is just a scenario-based game, but it will be interesting to see how well it recreates ancient warfare. I don't really know much of the game because I haven't played it yet. I haven't really seen it played, but I'm fascinated to see.
It's right up your alley.
It's a Roman game,
history era-wise. It's made for you. It's one of the things you feel like you're morally obliged to play it at least once.
Exactly. Oh yeah. So that's on my list.
Nice. Well, my next one I'm super excited about, and you are too, I think. It's Twilight Imperium.
Oh.
So classic. Ridiculous game. It's ridiculous as far as how long it takes, not compared to a war game.
Right.
But in the traditional board gaming space, Twilight Imperium it's a 4X game where you are exploring, you are dealing with politics, you're dealing with warfare, you're dealing with all these components, economics, culture. There's one of
great box cover.
Great box cover. Fantasy Flight does artwork really well. They did, I mean, I could get into that one. Let me get into it right now. I think there are 12 or 16 different factions that are slightly asymmetric from each other.
Okay.
So a ton of replayability there. I think it's fascinating that you need at least 3 players to play the game, according to the box. I don't know if there's a way to jerry-rig that or not.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have your own little space faction, and you are off exploring planets and try to conquer things and deal with the economics and culture and politics of the whole world. I've heard, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I've heard that at certain points of the game triggers a galactic council to come together and the players have to vote on new rules which change the game.
Oh.
To my understanding, I've known a couple of people who played this game. Your first game will probably take about 8 hours to play.
Wow.
Some people can get it down. Some people say it takes even longer than that, but they say take it 8 hours to really kind of learn the game and grasp it and really
I mean, I
dig
definitely
into it.
want to play this game.
It's going to be fun.
Definitely want to play this game. It seems really cool. It seems like it also like really delves and does its theme really well.
For sure. It has a lot of lore to it that Fantasy Flight is built in. So this is the fourth edition. The first edition came out mid-90s, I believe.
Okay.
And so this is the fourth edition. They've really refined the game, refined the artwork, refined the lore. There is even one expansion to this game, which makes it so there can be even more players and more factions.
Okay.
I think it expands it up to 8 players.
Wow.
Which I can't imagine doing that.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that would be really cool, though, if we could get 8 people to play it.
Oh, for sure. We did talk about the first time we do it. We're just going to do it with 3 just to kind of grasp it.
Yeah. Oh, so, yeah. It would be chaos with all 8 people trying to learn it at the same time.
I briefly opened the box, and it looks like the rulebook does a decent job of teaching you how to play.
Oh, that's good.
Which is nice for something that's intimidating as an 8-hour play.
Right. Oh, yeah. Well, my next game is in sort of I guess there's a theme in some of these games that I'm picking. This one is called Stalingrad 42 by GMT Games. Again, the kind of the Stalingrad campaign is kind of drawing me in this year by wanting to explore that more.
Well, I've noticed that you tend to pick a thematic era, so to speak.
Sure.
Like World War I or whatever, and you kind of really delve into that both in your research and in the games you play.
Yeah, exactly.
Which I really think is cool.
Yeah, and Stalingrad 42 is part of what's called the 40X or the 19XX series by GMT that covers all different campaigns of World War II. But this one is the Stalingrad campaign. It does have a relatively big footprint compared to some of the other games in the series. But my understanding is that this covers, it's been out for, I think something like 7 years, maybe 6 years, something like that.
Yeah.
And it seems from what my understanding is that what it does extremely well.
That's awesome.
And it covers the campaign very, very well, very thematic, and also driving a narrative, even though it is back and forth, I go, you go, almost in sort of I guess you could call it traditional, older style war game, but yet somehow it creates its own narrative in the game.
Story, yet again.
So I'm fascinated to try it out, and again, it does have smaller scenarios that lead to the big campaign. So I'm hoping to get to that.
Yeah, I hope you do. So my number 2 is a game that I have been aware of for years and years and years. It's Castles of Burgundy.
Oh.
A couple years ago, I backed the special edition from GameFound, which I don't, this is just me personally. I have nothing against people who do Kickstarter or GameFound or any of these things. I don't do that. I like to see a game that has run its course, a game that I know has stood the test of time.
Yep.
This is a game that has stood the test of time. It is more than 20 years old at this point.
Yep.
And I've never played it, but I've always known that this is a game for me. So when GameFound did a special edition back in 2023, I backed it. I didn't get like every bell and whistle, but enough because I wanted the nice, pretty version of it.
Oh, I remember when you got it.
Oh, I called you.
You called me. Come over and unbox it. It looked amazing.
It's a huge box.
Oh yeah.
To the point where the unboxed version of it, before you punch things out and everything, it can't even shut all the way.
Right.
That's how it's designed. But yeah, Castle of Burgundy, a Euro from the early 2000s.
Yeah.
But basically, you're kind of buying different pieces of like land, like grids, almost like you're building a Catan board throughout the game. And as you're putting the pieces together, you're kind of getting different points. I think it's the theme for me. I like putting different tiles together. Suburbia, Castle of Ludwig, now a version of that in Castles of Burgundy. That's kind of, I guess, my thing in a way.
Yeah.
I'm just realizing.
Yeah, that's cool.
So yeah, it's been on the shelf for a year. I've had it for a year and have not learned it yet.
Yeah. Hey, well, hopefully you get to it this year.
So.
My next game is the sequel to a game that was on my top 10 game list of games I've already played. This is Rome 2 Inc. Rome Inc. was on my top 10 list, and this is the sequel. This covers the late Roman Empire from Diocletian till Heraclius. in the 7th century, and this is a solitary game.
Yeah.
You also can play it co-op because the game covers the Eastern and Western Roman
Sure.
Empire, so another player can come along and take another half of the empire.
Mm.
But I'm fascinated by this game. I
Yeah.
loved the first game, and I'm sure because the late Roman Empire is my area of specialty
Right.
in history, and I am almost positive that I'm going to fall in love with this game as much as I fell in love
I
with
really
the first
hope
game.
you do. I hope you love it just as much.
I mean, I have it, and it's all punched and clipped and ready to go. But I'm looking forward to when I can pull it out.
Absolutely. I'm excited for you.
So, what's your next game?
My number one game of all, we're at number one, I think, right?
Yep, we're number
at
one.
number one. So when I made this list, I actually didn't include it because I'd forgotten about it, which is so dumb. So my number one game of all time is a game that I have bought expansions for. I'm so excited for it. Or no, the one game the game I'm most excited about. It's Scythe. Designed by Jamie Stegmaier from Stonemaier Games.
So wait. You haven't played it yet, but you've already bought the expansions for it.
Oh, I have 2 of the expansions already. I am so convinced it's going to be my favorite game of all time. It is a game that Eurogamers hate because it's too much like a war game, and war gamers hate because it's too much like a Euro game.
I mean, it does have a great box cover.
So one of my best friends, David, he has the art of Scythe. There's actually a book you can buy that has all the artwork for it. It's gorgeous.
Interesting.
So Scythe takes place in an alternate post-World War I where the world has become kind of mechanized. So you have your tableau, but you also have you're the big map with grid hexes.
Okay.
And you are doing culture and warfare with mechs and other workers. You place workers. There's a worker placement aspect. There's a combat system, but it also it takes a lot to go to war. So it's more of like the posturing of war where your armies are.
Yeah.
That is the threat of war that more than the actual war itself. Because if you just go hardcore into war, you're probably not gonna be able to sustain it.
Sure.
So there's just a lot of moving pieces between the economics and the warfare and the politics, which is again why some war gamers think, oh, we don't want the economics, and the Eurogamers are like, oh, we want the economics, we don't want the war. I have 2 expansions. One of them introduces airships. It's a very steampunk-esque game in general. So you have little warships that are on.
You definitely like the steampunk theme.
Love steampunk, yeah, just in general. Little airships on little transparent kind of vertical pieces. Little stands, yeah, they can transport goods around. I'm just geeking out.
That's cool.
There's an expansion called The Rise of Fenris, and what it does is it adds a campaign to the game, and takes you through I think 8 or 10 different campaign pieces of the story. They introduce different components of the game. The really cool thing is that apparently after that campaign is over, the rules say, take the pieces you liked the best and now apply them to the base game however you see fit.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah, I have all those. There are some other expansion bits as well, but those are the ones I'm most excited about. I cannot wait to get this game to the table. I'm thrilled.
That's cool. I definitely am interested in playing it with you.
Yeah.
Just because, again, I there's a lot of things where it may not appeal to me like the game itself,
For sure.
but the artwork makes it interesting to me.
Exactly.
Of wanting to at least explore it.
Yep,
And
yep.
that is one of those games where I want to explore because it looks cool.
It looks fantastic.
I don't know whether or not it is cool. I
Yeah.
assume it is.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm just so excited. It better be.
But it looks cool to me. So, my number one game is people are going to be so surprised. It's another Stalingrad level
Oh, no.
game. This one's called Traces of Hubris by VUCA Simulations. It's part of a series. And this one, like I said, covers the Stalingrad campaign. This is another chit pull level game where different armies are activated, and I'm not entirely sure yet how everything works in the game because I just bought it a few days ago and I haven't got it yet.
Nice.
But
And it's your number one.
It's my number
one wanting to anyway.
Yeah, number one I want to play because it looks cool. Box cover, the game map, the pieces, they all look interesting to me. And it's on a campaign I want to explore this year.
Yeah,
so
that's exciting.
That's my number one game.
Yeah, you're going to be a Stalingrad world.
That's right. Yeah, for half the year it's going to be Stalingrad.
Sounds kind of depressing, honestly. I just read a history book that kind of focuses on Stalingrad, and it was just miserable. Yeah, that's our list of top 10 games that are in our collection we want to play. Drop a comment below. Let us know which games that are on your collection that you want to play, or just ones that you want to play in general. Look forward to hearing about it.